Hi there YouTubers, this is my walk around of my electric conversion with my lunar cycle or Bafang BBS02 750 watt electric conversion. So this started off as a very standard Trek 6500 disc mountain bike, which I've had for I don't know, 10 years or so. When I first bought it, it was fairly state-of-the-art, hydraulic brakes and all that. Probably cost a couple of grand when I first got it, and now probably worth about $200. But anyway, it was a good basis for my electric conversion. A few of the modifications that I did along the way was change the disc rotors. So the front disc is this one now, which is 220mm. And give you an idea of the size difference, there's the original disc. I don't know if that gives it a good perspective. But yeah, substantially bigger. I had to do a little modification on the disc caliper to bring it out from the mounting points. Something that I did which is pretty cool is with a couple of cable ties I created a little mounting point for the front hydraulic cable. So it's kind of a cable, the white one's a cable tie with two entry points, and then I'll try and get a bit closer. Right, this is the way that I've laid out the handlebars. Gave it a bit of thought, and the best one for me was having the bell here and your gear shift. And I've got the little throttle here, which I probably won't press because the thing's turned on and will take off. You can see I've done 62 kilometers since the build. RT speed stands for real-time speed, I guess. See, 49. I actually turned down the amount of amps that the motor draws from the battery, and before I did that I actually got up to about 55, 56 kilometers an hour, which probably isn't too bad for mountain bike gearing. I had a lot of issues with this, especially with removing the bottom bracket. Wow, that was a pain in the ass. I just could not get the cranks off. In the end, I just used an angle grinder and cut the things off. Particularly the drive side one, I just couldn't get that off for the life of me. I tried, you know, the proper crank removal tool, and that stripped the thread on the crank. Then I used a bearing puller type device, and it just wouldn't come off in the end. After I spent about an hour or two trying to get the thing off, I got the shits with it and just got the angle grinder. I figured I wasn't going to use the pedals and all that again, so who cares. Got these sexy little Raceface pedals. I didn't like the idea of the standard sort of Bafang hydraulic cutoff switches for the brakes. So I got these from the US, which are Shimano levers, but they've actually got the switch built into it. You can just see the cable going in there. I don't know if I can get it there. Anyway. So yeah, so I've got the cutoff on both front and rear brakes. Something I learned the hard way was that in Australia we've got the front brake is on the right hand side, rear brake on the left, and that doesn't follow for all other countries. US, it seems to be quite common that the front brake is actually on the left hand side. So something to bear in mind if you're ordering new levers and hydraulic cables from the US is that you're going to have to modify them and switch the cables around, because you know, they'll be configured for the front brake on the right hand side, on the left hand side. Real pain in the ass was removing the bottom bracket. You know, using my standard Sid Chrome ratchet and socket, I just could not move it. In the end, I needed to buy a longer breaker bar, and this is the beast that I've got. To give you an idea of the length of it, where it is up against the fork. So it's basically the length of the fork. That did the trick, but gee, it was still pretty hard. Maybe being a 10-plus-year-old bike, it had sort of seized on quite a bit, but got it off in the end. The bottom bracket on this bike was 73mm, so it only just, I think it's the maximum size that the BBS02 750 watt motor can handle. So yeah, things that I had to just be careful was on this side, there's two rings, so the first securing ring I managed to get on okay, no issues, but this second ring, which is on the outside and sort of fits over the internal securing ring, it's probably only tightened on with maybe 3 or 4 threads, so I had to be a little bit careful, so I didn't over tighten that, and I'm sure it's nowhere near the 25 Newton meters it should be. I just had to be a bit careful that I didn't strip the thread. But yeah, other than that, it's all good. I used plenty of Loctite on there. Another interesting thing that I found was fitting the motor. When I was looking at videos on how to do it, it seemed like when you tightened up the ring, the motor kind of locked in position. But yeah, in my case it didn't, so I'd actually hold it into place while I tightened that so it wouldn't drop down. Whereas other ones I've seen, the notches on this plate here seem to hold the motor in position as it bites into the bottom bracket. But yeah, not the case on mine. But yeah, the motor hasn't dropped. You know, I've jumped a few gutters and I think I've done 60 or 70 kilometres on it now, and you know, no issues at all. So there's my walk around of my new electric bike. Well worth the effort. You know, is it worth the expense? I don't know. Ultimately, I've got a bike now that costs more than my first car. But you know what they say, man's got to have a hobby, and it's certainly been a hobby, and something that's going to be pretty useful getting me from A to B. Thanks guys, enjoy.